Do you ever wonder what goes into making a piece of studio hardware? Or if you have what it takes to build one yourself? Well, I have, and lucky for me, Audioscape, an amazing company that makes studio gear, is in my backyard. Well, not my actual backyard, but about 40 minutes down the road. You get the idea. Well, anyway, I'm putting together an analog vocal chain and was planning on buying one of their EQs. And I thought that instead of letting them build it like a normal person, I'd ask if I could come do it myself. And for some reason, they said yes.
I shouldn't be here.
So I figured we could turn it into a challenge. They're going to put me to the test, trying every roll in the line to take a bunch of parts and turn it into a piece of audio magic. My end game is to see if I can perform well enough that they'd be willing to hire me at the end of the day. So let's see if I've got what it takes to make it in the pro audio hardware world. And if you're wondering if that means doing some soldering, well, yeah.
So I'm here with Chris Yetter, the founder of Audioscape. I've known Chris for a very long time. I'm now old, officially, probably 15 years at this point. But I wanted to see what makes a place like this tick and how they're making this awesome gear. So Chris, what are we building today?
Today we're going to be building the MEQ-A, which is a tube EQ.
All right, cool. And what is the first step of building this piece of gear?
So typically we put together the case pieces, we make sure all the PCB components, everything's together, and then we just bit by bit put it together.
I knew some of those words, so let's go see if I've got what it takes to work at Audioscape.
So Chris took me to meet Nick, my first boss of the day, so we could get to work.
Let's go find some parts, I guess, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna be building an MEQ, right? So
yeah.
This is our section here, EQP and MEQ. The way we do it is we got all of our parts here, our bottom panels, back panels, side panels are over there.
We gathered all of the parts we needed to put together the EQ and made our way back to the assembly area to get started.
Grab our freshly wrapped power transformer.
Very nice. Audioscape custom.
Yes.
Very cool.
5091s, all right.
I'll forget those numbers immediately.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, I know all this stuff. Hire me.
Once we grab all of our parts, we'll take it over to our desk here. And it's just, there's a bunch of step-by-step things for each section. So we start off with the naked parts, but we put it all together and then we go on to a next piece and then we kind of assemble all those pieces into the unit once each piece has been assembled.
I decided to use this time to get some intel and hopefully improve my chances of a successful mission.
So how long from somebody's first day to when they would be able to build the whole thing from scratch do you think that would take? If they're not trying to crash it in the one day?
Yeah, I think it depends on you know, the learning curve of each person, but it really doesn't take that long. I would say each piece probably takes at least an hour starting from scratch. So, and there's 1, 2, 3, so probably about at least 3-4 hours. But if you're new, it's probably going to take you all day.
And how many weeks or months or whatever do you think it takes to master that process? This isn't something you can just learn in one day?
No, that's a good question. I would say at least a good 2 weeks.
Okay.
You know, like after doing it day in and day out, because like I said, there's parts. So we would start, you'd have to like learn how to make every single part before you put it all together. You know, it's just
Gotcha.
like this. We start out with naked PCBs. So you would actually have to put every part in here correctly before you move on to the next phase. So it takes time, you know, it takes a couple weeks, takes hours, manpower, you know.
And do you have to know how to solder?
Yes.
All right.
But that can be taught. That's actually a very easy skill. Some people, they put a little bit too much into it thinking it's harder than it is, but it can be taught, it can be learned very quickly.
Well, we're gonna learn today.
Yes, sir.
The first step is inspecting the plates to make sure there aren't any imperfection, so it shows up at the customer's door nice and brand new. If there are any blemishes, then that part gets moved to B stock and you start over. Once you're sure the parts are perfect, you can start milling the paint out of the case holes so there aren't any grounding issues later on. Now, I did you a favor by not including the audio here because the scraping noises gave me the heebie-jeebies. One thing I realized pretty quickly is that there's a certain finesse that you develop when you make things like this often. Nick really had all the angles figured out for each movement, so he could really guide me to the best way to hold things or the best angle to push a tool. That's not something you pick up from reading an instruction manual. It takes months or years of practice, which isn't great for me since I'm just here today.
Oh yeah, that's way quicker.
And we also used a Dremel to take off some paint for our grounding post. Once that was done, we got to work putting the actual pieces together.
Because we can start putting our parts in. This is the top, this is the bottom.
All right.
We're gonna go ahead and pop in your IEC.
So fuse on the bottom.
Yes. IEC.
Another thing that stood out to me is how in this process, everything is just very dialed in. The desk only had the hardware and tools we needed to put together this exact unit, and everything was in the exact spot you'd want it to be, so you aren't wasting time hunting things down and making sure everything fits right. That is one big difference between making something yourself at home in your garage and assembling it at an actual facility. Things really started coming together quicker than I expected, and before I knew it, the time to solder was upon us. I surveyed my options and realized there's no escape. The only way out is through. Thankfully, I have a great guide on this journey, so let's learn together.
The thing about soldering, you just want to get a little bit of wet solder on the tip of where you're going to place it. So like if you don't want to put the dry side on there now, you want to put that side down on the flat part of this metal and then just add some more solder. Okay. And that's it.
Cool.
Just enough to close that hole where the wire was, and that was it. Cut the little piece that's hanging down here so it doesn't hinder the heat shrink to go over, and then we'll just place that there for now. We won't heat shrink it until all three are in place, just in case we would have to go back and desolder something for some randomness.
All right.
But, okay, this is part of the step. The excess wire that we cut from here actually gets extended to here. You take both of the frayed ends and just kind of mash them into one another and then twist. Kind of like twisting one side, then twisting the other side. Okay? And then when they stay by themselves like that, I'll go back through and solder them together. Kind of just adding the heat from underneath and then putting the solder on top.
And how hot is this?
750 degrees.
Is that hot?
Yeah, that's real hot.
Once the solder is solid, you can use heat shrink to protect the connection, heating it up with this cute little heat gun until it's tight. And just like that, we've got our first points done. Now it's my turn. Let's see what we got.
Okay, so step one, dip it in this here steel wool thingy. Then you put a little on here.
Yep, add a dab to the tip there.
And then that goes on the top?
Yeah, you're gonna add that to the flat side and then start feeding in the solder.
So go underneath?
You can go on the top.
Okay.
But you can literally add the solder right to the tip of the metal. Yeah.
More? Probably.
A little bit. Okay, so
the
you
hole
wanna
needs
fill
to
that hole.
be
Yeah,
filled.
So cover the hole with the flat side of the metal and then just add the solder. Yeah, keep adding solder. Should be good. Should be good.
All right.
Yeah.
So that would that ship?
Yep, that's fine.
All right.
And we want to be careful. We want to be careful since this is plastic.
Right.
You don't want to heat it up for too long, so you kind of do. It does have to be kind of a quick,
Okay.
cut this excess here.
He was lying. That would not ship. This is going right in the dumpster, isn't it? Like if I turned this in as a, hey, I soldered this, what would you score that connection?
No, that's good.
Like
It's
B?
not. Yeah, it's not a cold solder joint. There's no dirt in the actual, connection, so
So that
that's
would
good.
pass quality control?
Oh, for sure.
All right.
So my soldering work doesn't go in the dumpster, and we're rolling. This thing is starting to shape up. So if you've ever seen a challenge video, then I think you know what time it is. Montage time. And while you watch this montage of us assembling this EQ, I do want to give an update on the producer planner. So the first books have been shipped, and I've seen a few people post that theirs have come in. So if you made an order, thank you so much. I hope that it helps you as much as it has helped me. And if you haven't yet, I will put a link in the description so you can check out the producer planner for yourself. So Nick walked me through assembling the rest of the unit, from the boards to the tubes, really everything but the knobs. Those come later. And we were flying. It started to feel like this challenge might work out. Like I might end up getting the gig after all. But once we had all of the parts in place, we decided it was time to take a lunch. Now on the way back in, something caught my eye. The Employee of the Month wall. In that moment, getting hired suddenly didn't feel like enough. I wanted to get my face on that wall. But there's only one problem. I can't win Employee of the Month in just one day. I mean, it's just not possible. But I closed my eyes and I made a wish that maybe I could win Employee of the Day. But this is serious business, so Nick and I got right back to it and took our EQ to the testing area to make sure everything's working as it should. No weird noises, no hum, all the EQ frequencies are accurate, stuff you would want to make sure of before you mail someone an EQ. One thing about Audioscape is that they use real vintage tubes in a lot of their units, so it's important to make sure that the NOS or new old stock tubes are playing nicely. And after a quick check, everything looked up to par except one tube that was giving us a little bit of noise, so we swapped it out and got ready to put on the faceplate and the knobs. This is one of the most important steps to get right, not only because the knobs are so iconic on this unit, but because if you mess it up, it can set you back hours. If the knobs are not properly spaced, they will scratch the faceplate of the EQ when you turn them. So you'll have to go all the way back and start over. Now, once Nick got everything lined up perfectly, we added the knobs, and just like that, we've got an EQ. Sadly, that means my time with Nick was coming to a close, but it's because it's time to make some progress and move on to the next station.
Let's come say hi to Andrew in Final QC. This is Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Right now it looks like he's working on an opto, but he's going to help you with the Final QC process on the MEQ.
So the first thing I would do, I get this, has a look at the front plate, and it's our job to be like really...
An important part of QC is attention to detail. First, we made sure the unit was aesthetically up to par, and then Andrew triple checked all of the connections for any noise, and we listened and watched for any EQ issues, and visually inspected all of the work inside and out. I figured this might be a good time to get some brownie points towards EOTD, Employee of the Day.
Yeah, so if you can give me like a score at the end.
A score, huh?
Yeah. I'm campaigning for being Employee of the Day.
Nice.
I'm trying to get my face on the wall for the day.
You are well on your way.
Once everything passed the eye test, we took some time to try out some different combinations of NOS tubes until we found the set that was the best match for tone as well as noise.
Is that EQ area that's popping up typically that tube specifically?
60 cycles tends to be that, yeah.
One thing you really want is for your gear to operate quietly. If this EQ was making a lot of noise, it wouldn't be something that you'd want to use in your studio, because now instead of focusing on getting the best tone, you'll be fighting against background noise. And while a bit of noise might seem quiet, it only gets worse the more tracks you add. If every track has a little bit of noise, that adds up to a lot of noise by the time you're done recording all of your instruments. After a handful of swaps, we finally found the perfect combination.
So it looks like we got a tube. Look at that, totally silent.
We got what we want. So we got the proper one here.
Sensational.
And by we, I mean Andrew.
So here we're just gonna make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. So we have our different frequency bands here, and so we want to make sure it responds in the way that we want it to. So here we're looking at 200, and it boosts around 200, just pretty close. A lot of times the curve isn't going to be exact.
Right. I mean, we're working in the analog domain.
That's right. There's 300. There's 500. 7. And 1K. So it looks good. And we do the dip. There's 200. And in order to get the employee of the day, you have to do quality work.
Now he's dangling it in front of me. Only to give it to Ricky in there.
The final step, give it a nice top panel and we're ready for the next station, shipping, with Ryan. The first step in this station is to make sure that the back and sides of the unit are totally clean. Then the input and the output stickers get added to the back, which just might have been my biggest challenge of the day.
Input is on the left, yeah. Don't make me figure this out. I hate this. So the mic has the prongs, which means that end of the cable does not, and then the other end has the prongs. So that's input. No. Yeah, that's the input, right? Please just tell me. Don't make me figure this. I'm so... Anything with numbers or puzzles or anything, I'll forget it all. Wait. Yeah, that's the input. Because you could just stick the mic right on there. Don't just leave. Yeah, I was right. You're right. You're making me second guess myself. Oh, that's a little crooked, but you know what? It's going to my house.
Going to your house.
So if I put it on crooked, I have no one to blame but myself. I think you should do them all like this. Yeah, there we go. That's even more crooked.
Once those are on, the front panel gets a nice cleaning as well, and then an optional step. Have everyone that helped you build this unit give it a nice signature.
Oh, that looks great.
Now, I can't thank Audioscape enough for letting me come and do this in the first place, and everyone here was so nice and so helpful and super accommodating. I just wanted a great way to remember this, so I figured let's have everyone sign the back of it. So once it's clean and it's signed by all of these amazing folks, Ryan packed it up along with some goodies and a sheet explaining all of the settings of the EQ.
All right, so this is where the USPS guy is gonna pick it up, right? Just right here. All right, we did it. Ta-da, we made a thing. Now I gotta talk to Chris about, how he thinks I did. We'll see.
So Ryan snapped a commemorative photo of me by the water cooler, something to remember the day by. And now it's time to see how I did. That's right, it's time to see if Chris thinks I did enough to get the gig, or if it was all for nothing. Let's all cross our fingers and hope for the best.
All right, Chris, we did it. We built an EQ.
Yes.
So there's only one question left to answer. Would you hire me if this was my first day?
Yeah, I think you showed some promise.
Okay.
I think you showed some promise. Yeah, you were receptive to everything. You don't have to be 100% awesome. That's the point of training, right? At everything. So
what a nice way to say that you weren't perfect, which is fine. Well, thanks so much for letting us crash your place and filming this.
So that's it. One day working at a pro audio factory. But before I left, Ryan had one more thing for me, a printout of the photo he took. And it turns out the gang wanted to give me Employee of the Day. I'm not sure I deserve it, to be honest. So many other folks got way more done than I did today. And I didn't do a lot of the work myself, and I probably slowed down their entire production for the week with my lack of skills. But I guess they just saw something in me that made me worthy of Employee of the Day. Totally unprompted. I mean, really, I couldn't ever ask for this.
I'm campaigning for being Employee of the Day.
Anyway, I knew exactly what I wanted to write on my award. Sometimes all you need is one day. Adam S., Employee of the Day, August 27th, 2024. And while I technically may not have earned this award, and while it's not even a real award in a way, I'll always look back fondly at this day. Because sometimes the real EQ is the friends you made along the way. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you can see more videos like this one. But at the end of the day, I really hope this video inspires you to try something that you've never done before, to challenge yourself. Maybe it's learning how to solder, learning how to build something from scratch. Maybe it's something totally different. Whatever it is, get out there, make some awesome art, make some awesome stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and watch this one next. All right, bye.